Many people assume Cube is a story about a maze. It isn't. It's a story about 7 people discovering they have already been inside a prison their entire lives.
Stop! In front of you!
And the filmmakers hid the evidence in every character's name. The entire film was shot in 21 days, on one set, with a budget smaller than most music videos. And the sound of the cube shifting rooms? That came from outside the warehouse window. 14 things you didn't know about Cube. 1 set, 1 door. The Cube, the vast, shifting, lethal labyrinth of thousands of interconnected rooms, was a single set. 1 cube, 14 feet on each side, 1 working door capable of bearing the weight of an actor. Every room in the film is that same room. The colored panels were interchangeable, slid in and out between setups. Red, blue, green, yellow. They're white. 5 configurations of the same 14-foot box. Because changing the panels was slow and labor-intensive, the film could not be shot in script order. Instead, the crew shot all the red room scenes together, then all the blue room scenes, and so on, working through color by color regardless of where each scene fell in the story.
Open the fucking thing.
This meant the cast played their characters out of sequence, assembling the emotional arc of the film in pieces rather than as a continuous experience. What looks on screen like a seamless journey through hundreds of different rooms was assembled from 5 color-coded chunks of a 21-day shoot. 2. The train outside the window. The warehouse where Cube was shot sat next to an active train line. During production, the crew could hear trains passing regularly. A deep, mechanical grinding sound that shook the set and interrupted takes. Rather than fight it, they recorded it. The sound of the Cube's room shifting position is the sound of a real train running past a real warehouse in Toronto.
Doing good.
It was the cheapest sound design decision in the film, and one of the most effective. The industrial grinding that audiences found so unsettling, that sense of enormous machinery operating just beyond the walls, was not manufactured in a studio. It was already there. The production simply pointed a microphone at it. 3. The short film that sold the idea. Vincenzo Natali knew that telling investors he wanted to make a film set entirely in one room, one deadly shifting room, was not going to be an easy pitch. So he made a short film first.
A very pure, highly designed kind of world.
It was called Elevated, a horror piece set in an elevator. Using the same logic as Cube, confined space, escalating threat, nowhere to go. He shot it specifically to show financiers what Cube would look and feel like in practice, to demonstrate that a single-location horror film could sustain tension across a feature runtime. Elevated got the feature financed. The short exists. Natali went on to direct Splice, episodes of Hannibal, Westworld, and The Peripheral. The film that launched his career was funded because he first built a smaller, cheaper version of it in a box that went up and down. 4. The ending that got cut first. Cube originally had a final scene showing what lay outside the structure. When the remaining survivor steps through the hatch into blinding white light, the original cut continued, revealing the world beyond the maze. Natali cut it in editing. He said it was the first thing he removed when he began paring the film down.
You can't quit now!
Not for budget reasons, not because it couldn't be filmed, because showing the outside answered a question the film was better off leaving open. The blinding white void that ends Cube, the image that has fueled fan theory and debate for nearly 30 years, is not a compromise. It is Natali's deliberate first editing decision. He removed the answer before anyone had a chance to see it. Everything you have ever wondered about what lies beyond the cube is a consequence of that single cut. Five. The missing color cube was designed around the number 6. 6 characters, 6 sides of a cube. 6 was meant to be the number of room colors as well. The budget ran out before the 6th color could be built. The production had enough for 5 sets of gel panels plus pure white. The 6th color, whatever it was going to be, was cut for cost before filming began.
Doing good.
The recurring theme of 6 that runs through the film's mathematics and structure exists in every element of the production except the one that was supposed to embody it most directly. The film about a system built on a specific number couldn't afford to complete that number. 6. Every name is a prison. Every character in Cube is named after a real prison. Not as a throwaway detail, as a design system. And each character reflects the specific nature of the prison they're named for. Quentin, San Quentin, California.
I can't!
I'm not dying in a fucking rat maze!
Notorious for brutality, Quentin the character becomes the film's most savage and dangerous presence. Holloway, HM Prison Holloway, London's women's prison. Rennes, the Rennes Correctional Facility in France, which pioneered modern prison policies. The character Rennes is the group's de facto expert, the one who knows how systems like this work. Alderson, a West Virginia prison where isolation is the primary punishment. The character Alderson never meets the others dying alone in the opening scene. Kazan, a Russian prison historically used to hold the mentally ill. And Levin and Worth share Leavenworth, a corporately built and rigidly managed facility. Levin navigates the cube through rigid mathematical rules. Worth unwittingly designed the outer shell. The characters don't just share names with prisons. They are their prisons. Natali built an allegory and then hid it in the credits. 7. The Red Room Problem. Because the production shot color by color rather than in script order, the Red Room scenes were filmed first. This turned out to matter. The Red Room scenes contain most of the film's heavy dialogue,
Everybody's got it, Worth, even you. Especially you hiding behind that cynical front.
including David Worth's extended speech about bureaucracy and futility, one of the most dialogue-intensive sequences in the film.
Not this part, the exterior. I don't know anything about the numbers or anything else in here.
David Hewlett, playing Worth, recalled being anxious about facing pages of dense monologue at the very start of a shoot, before the cast had fully settled into their characters or each other. Nicole de Beer confirmed separately that the Red Room had a specific psychological effect on the cast. Hours inside that confined space under red lighting produced real unease. The White Room, when they shot those scenes, felt genuinely comforting by comparison. The film's color choices were not only visual. The production's shooting order meant the cast lived through the cube's most difficult rooms first. 8. The VFX company that worked for Free CORE Digital Pictures, a Toronto visual effects house, did the digital effects for Cube at no charge. Their reason? Support for the local film industry. Cube was a Canadian Film Centre production, and CORE believed in the value of getting ambitious Canadian genre films made. And the company provided professional-grade visual effects work on a film with a cash budget of roughly $350,000 Canadian dollars, asking nothing in return. The wire trap sequence that opens the film, the image of a man being sliced into cubes by a retracting grid of razor wire, is the work of those donated effects. It's the shot that establishes the film's entire premise in under a minute, and it exists because a visual effects company decided the project was worth their time. 9. The outside the cube ending. They never used this fact gets filed alongside Fact 4, but it deserves its own entry because of what it reveals about the original script. Early drafts of Cube included scenes set outside the structure entirely. There was a world beyond the maze, characters who existed outside it, context for what the cube was, who built it, and why the people inside had been chosen. Natalie and co-writer Andrei Bielik stripped all of it out during development. Not in editing, in the writing process, before a camera rolled. The decision to remove the outside world was made at the script stage. What remains? 6 people with no context, no explanation, no exit strategy, is what Natalie considered the essential version of the idea. The sequels put the outside world back. Natalie has not publicly regretted removing it first. 10. One day of rehearsal. The entire cast had 1 day of script rehearsal before principal photography began. 21 days of shooting, 1 day of preparation. The film that required its actors to deliver extended technical monologues about prime number theory to sustain escalating psychological tension across a non-sequential shoot, and to play characters whose personalities were required to deteriorate convincingly over time, was rehearsed in a single session. Hewlett's anxiety about the heavy dialogue in the Red Room scenes was partly a consequence of this. The cast was working without the cushion most dramatic productions provide. What reads on screen as authentic tension and barely controlled desperation was, in some cases, actual performers navigating unfamiliar material under pressure. It's possible the constraint helped. Actors who are slightly uncomfortable rarely look comfortable on camera. In a film about people trapped in an inescapable system, nobody on screen should look at ease.
I say we cross the bitch.
11. The co-writer who built Orphan Black Cube was co-written by 3 people: Natalie, Andrei Bielik, and Graham Manson. Manson went on to co-create Orphan Black, one of the most acclaimed science fiction series of the 2000s, a show about identity, autonomy, and what it means to be trapped inside a system designed by someone else without your knowledge or consent. The thematic line from Cube to Orphan Black is direct. Both are stories about people who discover they are inside a structure, biological, bureaucratic, architectural, that was built around them without their knowledge. Both end with the question of whether escape is possible when the prison is the world itself. Manson's name appears in the opening credits of Cube. Most people who watched Orphan Black never knew it was there. 12. The budget that sold to 80 countries. The total production budget for Cube, cash and donated services combined, was approximately $700,000 Canadian dollars. The film sold to 80 countries. It won Best Canadian First Feature Film at the 1997 Toronto International Film Festival and the Jury Award at the Brussels International Festival of Fantasy Film. It launched a franchise that ran to 2 sequels and a Japanese remake in 2021. It is regularly cited as an influence on the Saw franchise, the escape room horror subgenre, and virtually every single location thriller made in its wake. 700,000 Canadian dollars, 80 countries, 1 set, 21 days. The per-country cost of making Cube was roughly $8,000. 13. The character who reflects his prison most exactly. Of all the prison character mirrors built into Cube, the most precise is Rennes. The Rennes Correctional Facility in France is historically significant because it pioneered many of the policies and practices now standard in modern prison administration. Rennes, the character, arrives in the film as the group's most knowledgeable member, the escape artist who has broken out of 7 prisons, who understands systems, who knows what to look for and how institutional structures operate. He is killed 10 minutes into the film, not by the Cube's most elaborate trap, by one he thought he had already read correctly. The prison that changed how incarceration works produced a character who believed experience made him safe. The Cube kills him specifically through that belief. 14. The film that was set in hell. In 1990, Vincenzo Natali had an idea for a film set entirely in hell. By 1994, working as a storyboard artist's assistant at the Nelvana Animation Studio in Toronto, he had written the first draft of Cube. The original version was darker in tone and stranger in texture. Surreal images, a cannibal, moss growing on the walls, a monster loose inside the structure. Natali and Bjellic stripped it back to its core: people, mathematics, rooms, death. No monster, no moss, no explanation. What remained was an architecture of dread, a system that existed to exist, a trap that had outlasted whoever built it and kept running because stopping it would have required someone to care enough to switch it off. The man who wanted to make a film set in hell made one instead about the kind of hell that doesn't need a devil, the kind that runs on its own. Which one gets you? Yeah, the train outside the warehouse that became the sound of the shifting rooms? The co-writer who went on to build Orphan Black? Or the ending Natali cut first, the answer to what's outside the cube that nobody has seen in 28 years? Drop it in the comments, subscribe, and hit the bell. More hidden histories of classic genre cinema coming your way. See you in the next one.